The Kansas Senate will come to order. Welcome back. Senators will be in their seats and the clerk will call the roll.
Alley, Baumgardner, Berger, Billinger, Boyer, Bowers, Braun, Denning, Dahl, Estes, Faust-Gadot, Francisco, Givens, Goddard, Haley, Hardy, Hawk, Hensley, Hildebrand, Holland, Kirshen, Longbine, Lynn, Masterson, McGinn, Miller, Olson, Peterson, Petty, Pilcher-Cook, Pyle, Rucker, Skubal, Sullentrop, Sykes, Taylor, Tyson, Wagle, Ware, Wilborn.
Senators and their guests, please rise and give prayerful attention to our Senate chaplain, Pastor Washington.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, on 3 different occasions in the book of Acts, chapter 10, verse 15, you told Peter, when you have smiled on a group of people and declared them as proper in your eyes, to never look down on them or say they are unfit. Then in verse 28, we see that Peter heard you. He began to advocate and champion the idea of looking at people from your perspective, through your eyes. It was May the 17th, 1954, 65 years ago, that our society was again challenged in the Brown versus Board of Education ruling to start looking at African Americans and people of different ethnicities from your perspective, again, through your eyes. Lord, as that decision helped to inspire the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, so let its anniversary re-inspire. Use the ongoing celebrations to remind us that your love, grace, and mercies are extended to all of us equally. And all we need is to be open, to be receptive. So Lord, help us. Help us to stop comparing ourselves to ourselves by ourselves. You've made us all different. But the goal for all of us is to be like you. So Lord, as we exercise the levels of influence you've given us, let our history reflect that not only were we recipients of your love, your grace, and your mercy, but we were also impartial distributors, conduits, letting you flow through. I come to you, Lord, in the name of your Son, the one who loved us to death. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Messages from the governor, the clerk will read.
To the Senate of the State of Kansas, submitted herewith for confirmation by the Senate, are appointments made by me as the governor of the state of Kansas pursuant to law. Judge, Kansas Court of Appeals, Jeffrey Jack. Laura Kelly, Governor.
This constitutes the introduction of the Jeffrey Jack appointment. At this time, I am referring the appointment to the full Senate for consideration. Under consideration of appointments, the chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Johnson County, Senator Denning.
Thank you, Madam President. The appointment of Jeffrey Jack is now ready for consideration. Are there any questions?
This is a debatable question. Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Madam President. As chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and having reviewed the information and material available to me and the public, I can say with a high degree of certainty that Judge Jeffrey Jack would have been rejected and received not the adequate votes to pass out of committee or move forward without recommendation to the Senate floor. Thereby, I will be voting no. In addition, I will talk about it a little bit later. I have a letter to the Commission of Judicial Conduct examining the conduct of Judge Jeffrey Jack. I'll talk about that later at the end of the debate. Thank you.
Senator from Shawnee County, Senator Rucker.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I rise today in opposition to the appointment of Judge Jack. I was awakened again last night at 2:45 in the morning, attempting to weigh out what could be said and what should be said. And I've come to the conclusion that the less that is said about this nomination, the better. One need only remember what has been voiced by Judge Jack himself and the comments of Governor Kelly about this nomination. Their statements regarding what is appropriate judicial temperament and the accompanying withdrawal of this nomination should be reason enough for the Senate to act in accordance with their sentiments. What remains to be said to this body, Madam President, deals with the larger issue of how the Senate got here today. One could make a convincing argument that but for Senate involvement and the confirmation process, the outcome may have been far different. This fact leads me to the belief that the fabled value of a strict nomination committee process for judicial appointments is not an inherent good or evil. It is the diligence that is applied to the judicial appointment process that produces a candidate worthy of confirmation. It is indeed an honor as a senator to vote, to advise and consent, if you will, on every cabinet nomination and judicial candidate. It is more transparent. It is certainly more democratic. It is more accountable to the people of our great state, and it is more consistent with the thoughts of our founding fathers. For those who have criticized the judicial confirmation process by the Senate, those who think that it just produces political ideologues who mimic the thoughts of the one who has appointed them or those who have confirmed them, need be reminded that both Judge Ginsburg and Justice Scalia received wide bipartisan Senate support for their nominations to the United States Supreme Court. If there is a distinction between the Kansas State Senate and those who serve in our nation's capital, it is that we still live in a world of relative civility, a place where we can debate the same topics as those 1,500 miles to our east, and not have our discussions, our debate, devolve into rancor and personal recriminations. The media will write whatever they choose about today's proceedings, but the members of this body know, Madam President, that the Kansas Senate can and do have very strong disagreements with one another on issues of the day. Yet we have learned the value of an honest airing of our differences, and then we get back to work. I will be voting no, Madam President.
Senator from Shawnee, Senator Hensley.
Thank you, Madam President. I really did not believe that I would have anything to say today, but I felt it was necessary to point out that when Governor Kelly made this appointment, I'm not sure that it went through a thorough vetting process from the standpoint of what her staff was responsible for doing. I think it shows leadership that she decided to withdraw the appointment in as much as a mistake had been made. Too often in politics today, leaders do not admit mistakes have been made. I'm thinking of previous governors that I've served with, and over their tenure, they had made appointments realizing that there was other information that had been shed to light, and they withdrew those appointments. One governor in particular I'm thinking about is Governor Finney, who was the first woman governor elected in Kansas. So I applaud the governor for realizing that a mistake had been made. She withdrew the appointment. We went through the process of going to the Supreme Court. I was there at the hearing that day, as was the President of the Senate. And there's absolutely no question in my mind, but when we come back next year, we have to look at this statute related to the appointment of Court of Appeals judges and bring much more clarity to it, particularly in the event that an appointment has to be withdrawn. The law is silent to that, and that's why the Supreme Court felt that the Senate needed to reconvene and needed to vote on this particular appointment. And I too will be voting no, and encourage my caucus, and have previously encouraged my caucus to vote no as well. I think it's unfortunate that we're here, but it is what it is, and I think after this appointment is defeated, then we can take a different course of action.
Senator from Butler, Senator Masterson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm actually going to cut my remarks way down because I would like to echo a lot of what was said from actually both senators from Shawnee that spoke before me. I am obviously of the belief that the particular nomination we're addressing is outside the bandwidth that can be perceived as impartial, which is critical to such an important role as a judicial bench. But I'm very supportive of this. The process has really exposed, and even Governor Kelly, by admitting mistake, which I actually give her credit for that, and in her own briefs to the Supreme Court, acknowledged this was to increase the role of the representatives of the people in the process. And without that change, you would not have had that. You would have had a person make it through. They made it through, this particular nominee made it through a nominating commission in 2005 when they were originally appointed, probably because we didn't have Twitter at the time. But the point is this, for all of you that know me, I think in pictures. It's like the person that's not necessarily beautiful on the outside as you traditionally would get, but they're just a beautiful person. That's what this process is. Because transparency, checks and balances, democracy is not beautiful in the sense it can be tense with disagreement. You can have emotion, but it is beautiful in the sense that it's the way that we, the people, can govern. The only other option is the oligarch or the king or the monarchy. To truly have that process, it is not beautiful in the traditional sense. But this is beautiful, that you have the voice of the elected people as a check and balance on such an important nomination. With that, Madam President, clearly I'm a no on the nomination and look forward to the next process.
Further comments or questions on the nomination? Seeing none, the chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Johnson County, Senator Denning.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the appointment be confirmed.
We will hold for final action. We are now ready for final action. On this roll call, we will take the appointment of Jeffrey Jack. The clerk will read the name.
Judge, Kansas Court of Appeals, Jeffrey Jack.
The clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Baumgardner. Berger. Bellinger. Boyer. Bowers. Braun. Denning. Dahl. Estes. Faust Godot. Francisco. Givens. Goddard. Haley. Hardy. Hawk. Hensley. Hildebrand. Holland. Kirshen. Longbine. Lynn. Masterson. McGinn. Miller. Olson. Peterson. Petty. Pilcher Cook. Pyle. Rucker. Skubal. Sullentrop. Sykes. Taylor. Tyson. Wago. Ware. Wilborn.
Has every member had an opportunity to vote? Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to vote no, and I want to explain my vote.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. One of the tweets was about me, my understanding. And, you know, the choice of words he used was very inappropriate. He could have done much better. And that's why I'm voting no today. You know, I'm sure he's given his life to his career. And I don't think one mistake or many mistakes should judge a person's life in the future. So I hope he finds a way forward from this to gain respect and do what's right. I just don't think he's appropriate to serve in this capacity or any other capacity. And I want to say, after this happened, I've spoke a lot about different things in bullying on social media and what it does to people. And this is a good example people need to look at and think. And I also want to take the time, you know, after this happened and my name was mentioned and then it was in some articles, the governor had the wisdom to call me to her office and apologize. And so that was big on my heart, and I really appreciate it. It allowed me to move forward. So I want to thank the governor for that. And this is why I'm voting no. And I wish people, I'm trying to be a better person in life on social media and treating people properly. I wish the rest of the world would do the same. Thank you.
Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Haley.
Thank you, Madam President. This was a difficult decision for me to pass and to remain passing on the nomination of Judge Jack. I served on the Senate Judiciary Committee when Representative Jack was in the House, and always found him to be deliberative, though we often didn't agree on the issues of the day. I don't know if anyone else here has had the ability to work with former Representative, now Judge Jack. And in that capacity, we often would have many arguments, and he would be very vocal about it, as I would try to be, as I felt. As I mentioned, we didn't often agree. And since that time, periodically, as I have with others, including our former colleague, Representative now Judge Tony Powell, with whom I served as well, and who I often did not agree with in the House and the Senate, I've seen some opinions and seen some articulations in his decisions that I don't agree with, and some that I have. But he has been vetted, or he was vetted, and they missed something in that vetting process. I continue to believe that the best vetting process, as broad as possible, would be from peers, those who are from the legal community, who have watched a judge in their own temerity and ability to render decisions. Obviously, they do not and have not, as in this case, caught everything. But I still believe that's the best process, and not rely upon one executive to make the solo decision, as we have seen happen actually with another or two other choices in a previous administration. I don't think that this should be an opportunity to return to the process of one person without broader consensus drawing that decision. And so I do pass. I would not be the 21st vote if it were the other way, Madam President, to affirm Judge Jack to the Court of Appeals. But in this particular case, I don't want to be the 40th or the 39th to suggest that he hasn't been cleared. I believe wholeheartedly, Madam President, that like I do, you don't know Jack. And for that reason, I pass.
Does any member desire to change their vote? Do any other members desire to explain their vote? Senator from Labette County, Senator Goddard.
Thank you, Madam President. The remarks from the first speakers kind of summarized what I was going to say today, so I'll keep it brief. I am totally frustrated with a nomination and confirmation process that can be characterized as a cluster gaggle. To begin with, we wouldn't be here today if the governor's staff had completed a much more thorough vetting of the candidate. It would have terminated at that point. Following the failure to vet in depth, the governor made her nomination based on the information she had and submitted it to the Senate. In the meantime, certain social media postings by the candidate came to light that stirred up a firestorm of controversy. As a result, the governor withdrew her nomination, and Judge Jack indicated he would not serve on the appellate court. So we are here today at taxpayer expense due to a Kansas Supreme Court ruling that would seat Judge Jack unless the Senate votes not to confirm him. Even though the governor has withdrawn her nomination, Judge Jack indicated he would not serve, and the Senate Judiciary Committee never had the opportunity to conduct a confirmation hearing. We should all be upset with a failed process and commit to fixing it during the 2020 legislative session. My vote stands as a no.
Did you want your remarks spread on the journal?
Please.
So ordered. Did any other member desire to have remarks spread on the journal that's already spoken? Senator from Wyandotte? So ordered. Further changes or further explanations of vote? Senator from Brown County, Senator Pyle.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to be clear. I'm voting no because Judge Jack is not qualified. He's not qualified to sit on any bench, in my opinion. You know the resolution that's been introduced, and I think we should be dealing with. I think that the Supreme Court should be dealing with him abruptly and quickly to take care of this situation because he's not qualified to be on the bench. I can quote all kinds of news sources that say the same thing. Even the governor stated that. But I think that the system that was employed. The selection process, the governor chose 9 members to put on that, 5 lawyers, 5 from the private, the non-lawyers, 4 non-lawyers, 5 lawyers, let me be clear. Their names are in the press. One's a former Senate colleague. Those 9 individuals sat there and went over 3 nominees and presented 3 nominees to the governor. I don't know how many they went over, but they chose 3 and presented them to the governor. The governor then chose the one that we're dealing with today. So there was more than one flaw in this system. There was a flaw in who they chose to put on the selection committee because those 9 members didn't do due diligence and do their job, or we wouldn't be here today. So, you know, if you're looking for a new selection committee and this happens again, Governor, I would advise you not to pick any of those 9 members. I would also say that when you're given 3 names to look at, you got a whole staff on the second floor to look at that. You know, what we're offering in changing the process, when we did this, there were a lot of arguments against changing this process. And had we not changed the process then, we wouldn't be here today. But it's a good thing we made that change. It was a very good thing. Those that rail against the administration and some of the things that happened under that administration are all voting no today. I find that highly, very, very interesting. I find it very telling. That was a good thing we did. And so the process is working, what has been employed today, but we got a bad selection from bad decisions that were made in picking those that select the judge nominees, and then those that picked from the 3 and chose and put that one name in the governor's hand to come to us. And so we're here today because of bad choices. We can fix this process going down the road, and it needs to be fixed. So with that, I just want people to know, though, I'm voting no because he is not qualified. Thank you, Madam President.
Would you like to spread some remarks on the journal? Okay. Further comments or explanations? Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Madam President. I think I'll take this opportunity right now to share with you what you have on your desk is a letter to the Commission on Judicial Conduct. It basically outlines some of the grievances that the Judge Jack has allegedly conducted. It is some way to check whether they are promoting the confidence in the judiciary, which quite obviously he has breached. It also talks about the extrajudicial activities in general, which it appears that he has breached. So I invite everyone in the Senate to come over, and in the back are some attached tweets. Give you a little indication of the gravity of the situation. If you would be so inclined, I would invite you to join me in signing this letter to the Commission on Judicial Conduct. I'll have the copy at my desk. Thank you very much.
Further explanations of vote? Seeing none, the clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. Zero voting for the proposed appointment of Jeffrey Jack and 38 opposed. This appointment failing to receive the required constitutional majority is hereby declared not confirmed. Messages from the governor, the clerk will read.
To the Senate of the State of Kansas, submitted herewith for confirmation by the Senate are appointments made by me as the governor of the state of Kansas pursuant to law. Judge, Kansas Court of Appeals, Sarah Warner. Signed, Laura Kelly, Governor.
This constitutes introduction of the Sarah Warner appointment. At this time, I am referring the appointment to the Committee on Judiciary. Are there announcements? Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you again, Madam President. First of all, I want to say for people on Judiciary, you will be receiving your packets. Matter of fact, you can go to the Majority Leader's office and receive your packets. The same treatment applies, confidential, keep them quiet, and then turn them in the day of the hearing. The hearing is scheduled for May the 28th. We have not set the time of day, but you'll be getting a notice from either myself or the revisor's office as to what time and what place and that day. And we will conduct a vetting of the proposed nominee, and hopefully we'll have an answer for you the following day on sine die. Thank you, Madam President.
So our intention is to vet the nominee on the 28th, and we are asking senators to come back for sine die on the 29th, expecting that we will have a vote on the nominee of Sarah Warner. Senator from Shawnee, Senator Hensley.
Madam President, I would like to thank you for setting up this process. You and I had a conversation yesterday wherein we agreed that Judge Warner's appointment would be read in today so that we could have that Senate Judiciary Committee the day before sine die. And I do encourage my colleagues to attend sine die so we can then have a vote on Sarah Warner's confirmation that day, and we will have resolved this particular situation. Thank you very much.
Are there further announcements? Seeing none, the chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Johnson County, Senator Denning.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, May 29th, 2019.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The Senate is adjourned.